To batch or not to batch? That is the question. I have been having so many conversations around batching, and let's be honest, I need to have the conversation with myself. So, should you be batching? Should you not be batching? Should you have an ace in the hole? Should you have your pitch hitter? Yeah. Well, guess what? Today, I'm going to talk about to batch or not to batch. That is the question. Let's go. Welcome to Your Podcast is Someone's Life Raft, the podcast that believes every story has the power to be a life raft. I'm your host, Jennifer Dragonette. I've helped hundreds of podcasters find purpose and profits from their shows. In a world filled with so much noise, we're here to explore the art of podcasting with purpose. It's about stories that can inspire, heal, and even provide a cure for dreaded pod fade. I've always believed that your story is a guiding light for those navigating the turbulent waters of life and of their business. We'll dive into the strategies that not only grow your podcast, but allow you to make a meaningful impact and income along the way. Selling through stories, healing through narratives, and discovering the power of collaborative magic that happens when like-minded humans come together. So if you're a heart-centered entrepreneur looking to make tsunamis in the world with your unique message, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So this is something that I need to talk about because it's 2 a.m. and this podcast is going out at 3 a.m. And I'm like, oh, we better do this thing. So should I be batching? Maybe. Do I have the interviews for my Friday drops of Your Podcast is Someone's Life Raft? Heck yeah, I do. Because it takes a lot more effort for me to schedule people, to have the interviews ready to go. So do I have enough batch to get me through the end of May? I do. But does that mean that they're all produced? No, they're sitting in a file ready to produce because as you can tell, sometimes I am a procrastinator and we are down to literally the last hour before the show comes out. So this brings me to the question, to batch or not to batch? And my resistance, which I also see with a lot of my clients, is we don't like to batch because we get so incredibly excited about something right now that in a week or two might not be our top of mind thing. It might not be the most excited thing that we want to share with our audiences because we've already learned and grown by the time those shows come out. As we've grown out of that last week's content that we batched. And I get it because things change. We want to stay current. But here is one of the things that if you are like me, where you don't really want to batch because you never know where you're going to go, why you should have your pitch hitter or why you should have that ace in the hole, at least 1 or 2 episodes that can always be dropped is because life happens. As I told you, I had surgery a couple of weeks ago and I honestly thought that, like 1 or 2 days, I would be back at it, like super quick back at it. Meaning I only had about 3 days off from my production company. And it took every bit of effort for the last 2 weeks to show up. Not because I was in pain, because I just am having a hard time staying awake. Now you're saying, Jen, it's 2 a.m. and you're recording a podcast that needs to go out today. You're having a hard time staying awake. Well, I also drank a lot of caffeine today, so that could be part of the problem in attempts to counteract whatever that medication is that I just can't get rid of. So should I have had more aces in the hole? Batch some content? Yes. So if you aren't somebody that can have a theme of the month, I love themes of the month. They help me keep on track. I'm going to start using them going forward so that I can start batching content because I can be excited about things for at least a month. But really, you should have a couple of your core messages in the hole for when life comes up. You have emergency surgery, you have planned surgery, a kid gets sick, I don't know, a pandemic happens, whatever it is, you should have a few in the hole. And if you can't batch, like can't think of anything to batch, here are some suggestions for you. Talk about your core story. Now, this can go on any platform, any podcast. I don't care if you are somebody who is teaching statistics or whatever. How did you start teaching that story? Let your audience get to know who's behind the voice. Always have one of those in the hole. Something's happened. Maybe you've pivoted. Maybe there's a new direction of your show, or something else happened that is in relation to your podcast or to whatever it is your gift is that you're sharing with the world. Talk about it. I love, and you will bet your booty that I will be recording these this week, is I'm going to share my journey with podcasting again, because I think that it's really important. And we always think that people, oh my goodness, they've heard it so many times, but my new listeners don't know that podcasting actually saved my life. Like, I would not be sitting here behind this microphone on this planet still, this side of the ground, if it weren't for podcasting. It's a very powerful story, and I forget about that because I get so in the weeds with all the new trends coming up, how to set this up, where to do this, where to do that. And I bet your audience wants to get to know you a little bit more too. So you can even make these educational, if you have an educational podcast, by sharing your story and the step-by-steps that you took to get there. Because we're normally talking about something that we've been through, something that we are an expert in. So you didn't start an expert. You started just as, as what I don't want to say brain dead or as a dummy, but those are the only things that are coming to mind. So there we go. You were started just as unaware of your topic as anybody else out there. How did you get from A to B to C to D to F? You know me. I skip from A to Z and then work my way backwards. But your audience can get to know you. That's a great ace in the hole episode to have for those weeks that you just can't get to it. And I highly suggest editing it, producing it, and having it uploaded as a draft in your podcast host. This way, most of the time you can log in even from a phone to schedule it if needed. Another great episode is talking about, this is the first one again, was your core story of how you did it. The next one is like, what is the main topic and focus of your podcast? So for me, I should probably record, okay, you've started a podcast, now you're overwhelmed. Now what? How come 85% of podcasters fail? There's like 5 million indexed podcasts and only something like 400,000, if that, were active in the last 30 days. I mean, come on. Why is that? Having an episode that explains why so many podcasters give up and some of the minor tweaks you can make so that you don't have to be stuck in the overwhelm and you can keep going, that'd be a great episode for me to have in my pocket. And I bet there's something within your topic, within your niche, within your zone of genius that you can have. What is one of those statistics that's like, oh my goodness, I don't know, I'm making stuff up right now, but like 90% of people have imposter syndrome and they have all these feelings of being an imposter. Okay, great. Why do we think that is? If your show is related to that, talk about that. So one is about your story of why you did this, why you got into it. One is about like something big in your specific topic. The next thing that you can always talk about is something that you found very profound or saw a great transformation in one of your clients. Now, I'm not saying shout out your client's name, Sally over here did that and this and blah, 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 blah. And they were crashing and burning and had all these things. And then all of a sudden we went from XYZ up to whatever level and the transformation they went through. You don't have to call them out. You can change the story a little bit, but I can guarantee you if you've worked with people, you have seen some sort of a transformation. So do a transformation episode. Let people know, again, we're going into the storytelling, let people know that like there are other people on this journey, because sometimes just having the ace in a hole episode of letting people feel connected. Now, if you have a straight up educational, very dry show, great. Pick a topic within your zone of genius, within your niche, and talk about it. Now, I'm talking about, for me, that could be, what the heck is podcasting 2.0? Side note, it's very confusing. I'm still trying to figure it out. Why did Google Podcasts go away? Be a great one for me. There is something in your niche that is very specific that is going to be evergreen. Unless you're talking about the news right now, you can have some of these ace in the hole pitch hitters in your back pocket, scheduled and ready to go on those weeks that you can't show up. Guaranteed you can do it. The next one is that for me, it's very helpful to, when you're in one of those zones and you're like, oh, I feel really good, just start recording. Record more than you think you need, and maybe make a series or do some mini episodes. It allows you to create space in the rest of the time. So yes, this is batching, but some of the batching things you can also do is you have a normal show that's 30, 40, 50, maybe an hour long. Do some mini episodes, do some mini highlight reel basically of your show. So for me, I could take any of my interviews for your podcast is someone's life raft, and I could make a micro episode that follows up. Oh, do you remember when I talked to Dave Jackson about his guy on Halloween and how his episode changed this guy's life? XYZ. Here's why it changed his life. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And yes, Dave and I talked about it on his first episode on The Cure for Pod Fade, when this show was The Cure for Pod Fade. We've had a few name changes since then, but it's still there. But I really want you to start thinking about how can you create maybe some micro content. Maybe it's a quick hit episode. If you can't get it out, maybe create a couple of quick hit episodes. So for me, I could be quick hit. Okay, let's look at my CPR audit. So podcast CPR, we know it's clarity, people, passion for revenue. Okay, well, where are some of the places that people aren't clear? Okay, well, SEO is one of them. We can talk all about SEO, and I can do a quick hit SEO episode. I can do a quick hit how to recraft your description with questions, because Google likes questions. How to put your podcast on, because it's a YouTube playlist, not a podcast. I can do a whole episode on that, because that's something that is near and dear to my heart that also bothers me about the industry. So if there's something that the industry bothers you, you can do episodes about those, and those can be quick hits, quick hit education, quick hit, if you're somebody who's a healer or does tappings, meditations, activations, hypnosis, get a couple of those in your ace in the hole, in your pitch hitter. Drop those as a, special drop this week, doing a meditation. I can guarantee you, if you're somebody who's in that field, you have a lot of them that you could record a hook and then add it to your podcast. Just make sure with the music that you are not violating any terms and conditions and trademarks and copyrights or whatever is on music. So just be careful with that when you start getting it over into your podcast land. So there's a bunch of ways. So do you need to batch? No. Is it a good idea to at least have a couple in the pocket just in case life happens? Yes. And I just gave you a bunch of different ones that you can put in the pocket. Again, your story, anything that's specific to your industry, quick hits, the hypnosises, meditations. Or if you just have a bug up your butt one day, record a bunch of them. And if you really can't find content, then it's time for you to actually figure out what's going on and why you're so unaligned. And if you're struggling doing that on your own, you can grab a podcast CPR audit for free. These are 30 minutes with me coaching. And let's be real, plan for at least 45 minutes because we do get to chatting. But I call them 30 minutes. And they're really just coaching calls. It's not me trying to pitch you into one of my programs, although we would love to have you in one of the programs. But in reality, sometimes it's easier to just have a back and forth conversation so that you can have a list of topics that you can be excited to record. And even if you don't release them all at once and you keep recording when you're excited about the new things, it's always good to have 2 or 3 in the hole. Whether, again, that's a basic story, a specific topic, a quick episode, something, because life will happen and podcasting sometimes gets hard because we've overcomplicated the hell out of it. So if you're struggling, again, you need a little help. podcastcpr.com and let's have a conversation. That's me and you for 30, 45 minutes looking at your show, your business, and getting it all aligned. So, should you batch or not batch? To batch or not to batch? Well, this girl is going to have a batch of ace in the holes, but I will not be batching every single week. I will have the backup ace in the hole pitch hitter if I need it on the weeks that I just can't get to it, because I like to podcast, not necessarily at 2 a.m. when my podcast drops at 3 a.m., but realistically, I like to podcast on the fly. But I know there are some benefits and there's some reasons to batch and have some ace in the holes. So I want to know, are you going to batch or not batch? Or are you going to have a couple ace in the holes just in case? Let me know. I will talk to you soon. So go out, make today amazing, because you are beautiful, you are worthy, you are wonderful, and your story deserves a microphone. Till next time.